It's a great day to be a Miami Hurricane. Garrett Halsey back with another episode of Canescast for everybody. In this week's episode, the biggest topic, of course, will be Cam Ward. He decided to forego the NFL draft and bring his talents down to South Beach to see what he can do for the 2024 Miami Hurricanes. Pretty exciting. Then we'll talk about the Polynesian Bowl. There was, as I touched on the previous couple episodes, there was high school All-America games. This is really the third game there was actually a couple of guys that went ahead and played, in this game also. Booker Pickett and our big star Justin Scott played in this bowl game. And then we'll touch on Miami has gotten a couple more transfers since the last show. Rodney Hill from Florida State. Nice to get somebody from the rival school. Then I did in the last episode predict that I thought Dabo Swinney would have been the head coach at Alabama since Nick Saban's retiring, and Kalen DeBoer has gone ahead and got that job. So I was wrong in that. And then lastly, before we end the show, I'll touch on the NFL playoffs. And we've had the wild card, and I wanted to wait to film this episode after the divisional round. Just a quick touch on the NFL also. So first big topic, Cam Ward. Cam Ward is a 2-year starter at Washington State. He decided to put his hat in the NFL draft. He had really right around the first of the year decided to, instead of transferring to Miami at that time, he was going to look at the NFL draft. So he gave a couple more weeks to consider his draft, his draft stock, where he was going to be picked amongst, it's a pretty deep quarterback draft. I'm not so high on everyone. Like everyone seems to be the consensus that Caleb Williams will be the first pick in the draft. I think that's probably what will happen. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go. My thinking is that there's a lot of good talent in the quarterback room for this year's draft. I think Caleb Williams will be the first pick, of course, but I don't necessarily think he's the best player ultimately that will come out of the 2024 class. So Cam Ward decided to really take that extra couple weeks to consider where he would be, and then when it came down to it, he decided to come back and give college football one more year ago, and decided what I'm really excited for is to bring his talents down to Miami. Why I think this is a big deal. If you've watched the show, and we are grateful if you guys are back. If you're a new subscriber or tuning in for the first time, hope that you'll continue and showing up each week for us with our show. But Cam Ward changes the 2024 projection quite a bit. I am a big fan, and as you know, of Jakari Brown. I think what his game would do for this team would significantly change the trajectory of 2025 and 2026 if he were to go ahead and play in 2024. It would have been a little bit of a struggle, a learning process. He has played and shown and last in the bowl game that he has made big strides on his passing, but his talent on the ground is where I really think he sets himself apart from the other quarterbacks that we have on Miami Hurricanes at this time. But Cam Ward does bring some of that also. His arm talent is undeniable. I think he was second or third in the yardage as far as college football in 2023 in the passing game, but he is capable of eluding the rush with his quickness, his foot talent. I think that's huge. What Miami has struggled with for 20 years is when the protection isn't 100% across the board flawless, we are susceptible to getting pressure and taking big losses with sacks. And I think this is what Cam Ward's biggest asset bringing to the 2024 Miami Hurricanes will be, is that he is able to, if it's not necessarily the play design, is that he's going to be a threat running the ball when things aren't held up in front of him 100%. He will get those yardage plays that I think are huge that we're missing out on, where you get a big, instead of a 10-yard loss, you're getting a 4, 5, 10-yard scramble and getting a big first down to continue a drive. That's where I think he brings something I've been dying to see for the Miami Hurricanes. We did have a couple years, if you go back, we did have a couple talented runners. I just don't think they were as dangerous as we want in this day and age of college football, where Jakari Brown would be that. But I think Cam Ward is good enough to do just that. And then his arm talent is undeniable. When you have a Xavier Restrepo, somebody that can really show that they are a guy that can go out and get tough catches down the field. I think once he gets in and gets working with him in the spring, these two will have a great connection. Jacoby George, I think, is a very talented receiver. Can definitely go ahead and make plays, but he has a little consistency that he needs to go ahead and improve on. We do need these guys to go ahead and get with Cam Ward in the offseason, develop that rapport so they can be dangerous, and then we want somebody to step up behind them. We need a bigger body, an X type, so I think it's Isaiah Horton probably has got the leg up. He's shown he does have some ability to get vertical, be a big body, make tough catches. Him and Jakari Brown's rapport was very good in the bowl game. I think that would have continued to develop. So he's got to go ahead and this is Cam Ward's team. I'm a Jakari Brown guy. I've been that voice, if you've watched his previous shows, saying this guy needs to be on the field and needs to go ahead and develop so he can be ready in these next coming years to go ahead and really take our team to where we can be. Talent-wise, we are ready. Cam Ward probably puts us ahead of schedule as far as win totals for 2024. Miami is susceptible to goofing up. So I'm not to sit here and say we're in the playoffs and we've got that kind of potential. We have that type of potential with the talent on this team. It has been on the younger side. Mario Cristobal has done a good job recruiting, bringing in talent, but he has left a little bit to be desired. If he can develop that talent properly and then put us in position to make those strides as a program to get back into the upper echelon of college football where we as fans want to see, of course. Cam Ward is a great addition. I got to give Mario Cristobal credit now that he has done a great job of bringing in new talent. I think this does bode very well for the next year to put us in that conversation of being contenders in the ACC. There's new schools joining the ACC. This is a crazy year for college football. There's a bunch of teams moving all over the place. Cal, Stanford, and SMU are joining the ACC conference, so that will change the dynamic. It's not the same teams that we've had for the last several years. There will be parity. There is always more competition with these West Coast schools. Miami does have to travel across the country to go to Cal this next year. That will be, what you would normally see in the early weeks of college football where there's interconference play. That will bring a big dynamic change to the ACC, how that plays out across the board. So it is left out there. I think the ACC is a conference that's totally, with someone like Miami who had a 7-6 end to their season, it is open for us to go out and make big splash in 2024. So Cam Ward, very exciting to see him go ahead and be an addition. Next subject, we go ahead and talk about the Polynesian Bowl, the 2024 Polynesian Bowl. A third high school All-America type game where there was guys that played in these big games, the previous two that I talked about, the Army All-American and Under Armour All-American game. They also played in this Polynesian Bowl. Some guys more or less to the Polynesian relation, so as far as, that's kind of the big thing. But there's guys from all over the country that went ahead and played in this game in Hawaii. I unfortunately did not get to see the game, and I wasn't able to find any of the whole game in entirety. So hard to say I want to sit here and give you a bunch of what I believe happened and transpired in that game. There was a bunch of big names for high school recruiting in that game, though. But one player in particular did have, another 1.5 sacks and actually had an interception. So this is stuff I read. Again, this wasn't something I got to see with my own eyes. But Booker Pickett, again, making a name for himself in the offseason for going into 2024 to bring that skill set to the Miami Hurricanes this year. Big strides. I'm very excited about this young fella coming in. Again, I think he does need a little addition to his weight because he's a slighter 220-ish pounds, probably coming off if he's going to be an edge player on the defensive line. I think he does need to put a little extra weight on, but it's undeniable that he's shown in 2 games now that he is a force to be reckoned with. Somebody I'm very, very excited to bring aboard to the team for this year. I think he'll, maybe best case scenario has a Ruben Bain type effect. Worst case scenario gets on the field and does play and is a big factor in the years to come for the Miami Hurricanes should he stick around. You see much more guys can move around nowadays. It's not like if you sign this day and age that you're locked in for the next 4 years for sure. Generally, if you have success on the field, it's very unlikely that you're going to move on, but it can happen. You've seen in other teams guys that play and then all of a sudden the next year on a new team. So with that said, I will talk about the other transfers. Name-wise, maybe not as big a splash as Cam Ward, but Elijah
Alston,
DN from Marshall, has played under our current defensive coordinator, Lance Guidry, so that's very positive. I'd like to say our defensive coordinator having that experience with this particular player should translate well. He should know the scheme, be able to come in and make plays where he's comfortable, getting on the field and not having a great deal of time to develop and, get ready. He's a later stage player, so it's not like he has a lot of time to waste. So certainly a rotational on the defensive line, you got to have 2. Hopefully, if you're a really good program, you got to have 3, because more and more this day and age, it's fast-paced offenses you're going to be facing now with new teams like SMU. Our former coordinator and has done a great job at SMU. So we got to make sure we got lots of guys to throw at each and every team that we're going to play every week. Attrition's going to happen. Injuries are going to happen, of course. We lost one of our big players in Akeem Mesidor for most of the season. So you got to have guys ready to fill in those voids, next man up, and along with the high school talent that we're bringing in on the defensive line, guys that maybe probably need a little more time to add weight. This guy should be ready to rock and roll. And then we did get Rodney Hill, a running back from FSU. Maybe the one thing I would say is I'm glad of being his talent. He did have plays that he made for FSU. Always good to steal a talented player from your rival, especially the Seminoles, who have taken a couple guys from us in the transfer portal. I say in the running back room, I liked the younger guys that we had. So this guy, if he's a huge addition, I'm going to say that this is more left to be determined on my end. I liked Chris Johnson, what he was able to show in his true freshman season. I think he's got a great deal of speed, something that Miami really needs to put on the field. We got a big guy that can smash the ball down people's throats. So I wanted to see, quickness being brought in on those third downs with passing potential, maybe to catch a ball out on the edge, and then really threaten the defense to take it to the house. So I like that this player in particular is smaller. He's not, a huge guy, but he is quick. They say he can. What I read is he can play defense. He can return. So he's got some skill set that can bring this talent level up across the board and make a splash for Miami in 2024. Next subject is that the Alabama head coaching search is over. It wasn't very long. It did not go, and I like to say if I make a projection and I'm wrong, here to tell you I was wrong, that Kalen DeBoer, the Washington head coach, got ahead and filled the Alabama head coaching vacancy left by Nick Saban. So I won't be long on this. I just want to touch on, I think that is probably in the world of college football, maybe a good thing. I think very, very hard to come in after continued success like Alabama has had, and then all of a sudden you get a guy from not within the program and not within the conference, somebody who doesn't even really have a great deal of head coaching experience. I mean, Kalen DeBoer is a fairly young coach and has done very well to obviously get the job at Alabama. You can't be anybody just off the street. So what I do think is that when you have sustained success like Alabama has had, the expectations are sky high. And very difficult for a guy to bring a new mentality from way across the country. Even though you've had success at Washington, the last 2 years, Washington's been very good. I think that's going to be very difficult to go ahead and just continue the success at Alabama. Dabo Swinney has had a lot more experience of a high-end program. That's where I thought that made more sense for their program and to continue that sustained success. So I'm kind of happy that Alabama went that direction. I don't want to sit here and say Alabama's going to fall off. I think they've got a quarterback that's very talented. I think he's only going to get better as he goes and plays more. So what I do think is that hurts the program a little bit. And you've seen, if you follow college football, there's a lot of players that are on that roster that have decided to put their hat in the transfer portal and decide to move on to other programs. Very talented people. So I think that's kind of what you're going to see. Now, they bring in a ton of talent. Don't get me wrong. It's not like, again, I think Alabama will fall off, but I think it will be difficult to continue to play against the LSUs, the talent level that is in the SEC, and only lose 1-2 games. Hopefully, there's a little bit of a learning curve, because that helps programs like Miami to stop getting kids straight from South Florida, the top end kids, just to go flow right into that program. So that's all I want to say. Hopefully, that's the way it goes. And then lastly, I'll touch on the NFL. So I wanted to wait through the divisional round that just got completed as of yesterday. The Ravens, which was if you watched last episode, was my pick to win the Super Bowl. Looked very strong. Beat the Houston Texans, a program that I think is on the up and up. They have a great young quarterback that I've talked about, seeing him in person. I think they will be a strong contender for the next few years to come. But the Ravens are just ready to take this year, and I think with their quarterback, who I'm a big fan of, Lamar Jackson, is everything that I want to see for my teams. I want to see that kind of a player. So I think he showed, and the defense is really upholding their end of the bargain to take that team, I think, to the Super Bowl. I think they're going to be a big contender to win that Super Bowl this year. But they have a big matchup coming up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is no slouch. He's been in the AFC Championship game every single year he's been a starter, so you got a big game this week for the Ravens and the Chiefs. And then on the NFC side, the Lions have come from obscurity and have got themselves into the NFC Championship game, but they got to take on the number 1 seed in the San Francisco 49ers, a program that I think has done really very well for themselves. They've been in, I think this is their 3rd NFC Championship in a row, so I believe they're probably the people that move on to the Super Bowl to face, and my pick is the Ravens. So Ravens, 49ers Super Bowl. If you've heard some of the conspiracy theory that the logo colors have been in the last, I think this will be the last 3 Super Bowls, the colors of the logo have been the colors of the teams facing off in the Super Bowl. So I did actually, I kind of bought into that for the last few years, that this year's logo is purple and red, pinkish red. So a Ravens, San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl. So I'll be able to go over that in the next episode with you guys. Was I right or was I wrong? See it all play out on the field. I really, again, appreciate everybody that's tuned in and waited to the end of the episode. Like and subscribe, share with your friends if you're liking the content we're putting out. And I can't wait to see what goes on in the world of football. And I do want to maybe touch on the last subject is I've talked about in the previous episodes that we would continue talking about Miami Hurricanes programs across the board with the basketball team. A lot of struggles with the basketball team. We've had good teams the last 2 years. We got a little spoiled to think that this year the talent level should sustain and we would be in the big dance at the end of the year. It's not looking like that's the way the things are going with the basketball team. They're losing games tough at the end. We just lost a buzzer beater, I believe, is Syracuse. So Jim Larinaga, I'm not going to sit here and be negative. That man has been everything we could have hoped for from a program standpoint. He got hired back when Al Golden was hired on the football side. So you got to say, a guy that's been here a decade plus now and has done really good things with that basketball team. Because in the ACC, there are other programs that generally are, like at the top. They're fighting for national championships every year. The fact that he's had our teams close at the end of the year a couple different times, that no harm, no foul. It's disappointing to say as a fan. You'd like to see Miami Hurricanes in that big dance conversation, the possibility of Sweet 16, Elite 8. Final Four contenders. I don't think that's going to happen for us this year. It does look like this is a year that we'll take, maybe NIT or maybe if we get into the tournaments at all. But there was a great deal of young talent brought in. I think this is Miami's best recruiting class they've ever brought from the high school level. This day and age, I think, again, transfers in basketball are just as big in the NIL world as football. So who's to say that all those guys end up being big contenders for the Miami Hurricanes in years 2 or 3 in the program? But Jim Larrañaga is a great human being, great coach. No quarrel here that he deserves the benefit of the doubt to continue to run the program. Hopefully he sticks around another couple years. He is on the older side. The ladies have lost a couple games on their end, so I still think they have probably the most potential to get in there. The women's big dance at the end of the year, but we'll see how that plays out. So again, wanted to touch on continue Miami Hurricanes content across the board in other sports. Appreciate you guys. Thank you again for tuning in. It's always great to be a Miami Hurricane.